So, what happens when one of literature's greatest strivers meets philosophy's most radical prophet? Well, in this explainer, we're going to imagine just that, a final, crucial meeting between Goethe's Faust and Nietzsche's Zarathustra. And let's kick things off with this powerful metaphor from Friedrich Nietzsche. He saw humanity not as some finished product, but as a rope stretched taut over a massive abyss. It's a dangerous, thrilling transition from what we are now to what we could become, the Übermensch or Overman. And this whole idea, this crossing, that's really at the heart of our story. Our story begins with the legendary scholar, Faust. Now, this is a man who has, for all intents and purposes, reached the peak of human knowledge. But, as it turns out, this has created a huge and kind of ironic problem for him. I mean, can you imagine that? After a lifetime buried in books, knowing everything there is to know, Faust realizes it's brought him zero joy, zero meaning. Instead, he feels totally disconnected from life, like an empty shell just haunting his own study. So what does he do? In his total despair, he makes probably the most famous deal in all of literature. The demonic spirit Mephistopheles shows up and offers him everything, every single earthly pleasure you can imagine, in exchange for his soul. But there's a catch. The deal only closes if Faust finds one moment of such perfect, ultimate satisfaction that he begs it to last forever. And that, right there, that's the heart of his whole quest. Faust is looking for a finish line. He's convinced that meaning lies out there somewhere, in finding a single, perfect moment that will finally stop his restless striving and give him peace. Okay, so Faust spends years chasing every pleasure Mephistopheles can conjure up, but he's still empty. And then, his journey takes this totally radical turn. He climbs a mountain and meets someone he never, ever expected. He runs into the prophet Zarathustra. And wow, the difference between him and Mephistopheles is just night and day. Mephistopheles offered a contract designed to end the journey. But Zarathustra, he offers a mirror, forcing Faust to look at his journey, and himself, in a completely new light. And Zarathustra just cuts right to the chase with one simple question that rocks the very foundation of Faust's pact. He asks, why are you looking for a finish line? Why is rest the ultimate prize? This question completely flips the script on the value of striving itself. All right, and this is where things get really fascinating. Zarathustra introduces a philosophy that doesn't just give Faust a new answer. No, it completely shatters his entire worldview and the very question he was trying to solve in the first place. So Zarathustra lays out this whole new path for him, right? It's like a 3-step guide to a whole new way of living. It kicks off with a terrifying thought experiment, moves on to a deep look at your own inner strength, and ends with a brand new ideal for all of humanity. First up is this massive, kind of terrifying idea, the eternal recurrence. Zarathustra asks Faust to imagine that every single second of his life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the striving, is going to repeat exactly the same way forever. So the question is no longer, is there one perfect moment, but is the entirety of your life worth celebrating again and again and again? Now, once you start thinking that way, it leads to this huge light bulb moment. Mephistopheles, this great, tempting devil, isn't some external force pulling Faust's strings. He's just a tool, a manifestation of Faust's own inner drive to overcome, to grow, to experience more, what Nietzsche called the will to power. And that realization is the spark for the final transformation. The moment Faust understands his own inner drive, he stops being a passive guy searching for truth and becomes an active creator of meaning. The whole purpose of his life starts to shift, right then and there. And really, this one pivot changes everything. Faust's original goal was to find a moment so perfect he'd beg it to stay. His new mission? To build a life so powerful, so meaningful, that he would command it to come back forever. It's a total shift from being a passive receiver to an active creator. And this is it. This is the moment Faust stops being a scholar looking for an answer in a book or some demonic pact. He starts the climb toward becoming the Übermensch, the Overman. That's an individual who doesn't find meaning, but creates it, and who finds joy not in reaching the summit, but in the eternal act of climbing itself. Now, you might think this whole meeting is just a cool thought experiment, but it actually gets at something really deep about Nietzsche's own philosophy. He saw his Zarathustra as the next step, the necessary evolution of that Faustian spirit that had dominated so much of German culture. And when you put them side by side, the differences are just massive. Faust still operates in a world of good and evil. He needs an outside force to get going, and he's hoping for some kind of salvation in the end. Zarathustra, he throws all that out. He demands total self-reliance, creating your own values, and fully embracing this life, right here, right now, with no need for an afterlife. But here's the thing. For Nietzsche, Faust wasn't the bad guy. Not at all. He saw him as a vital, necessary step. Faust was the ultimate man of knowledge, the guy who pushed reason so far that he proved it wasn't enough on its own. He was the bridge that humanity had to cross to leave behind that old search for truth and finally begin the journey of creating its own. And that brings it all back to us, doesn't it? It leaves us with this one last, really challenging question. In our own lives, in our own ambitions, are we searching for some final destination, a moment of rest, where we can finally say, I'm done? Or are we busy building a life so rich, so meaningful, so completely our own, that we would joyfully command it to happen all over again, forever?